It's a little bittersweet, but we're finally here. The final episode in the 5-star service experience. It's been an amazing series, and I'm really thankful for being with us on this journey. And I'm excited to put a nice wrap on it with you on this final episode. And to wrap up this series, we'll be talking about collections, actually getting money in the bank. And when it comes to cash, money loves speed. And a study by the Commercial Collection Agencies of America showed that if a company has $100 overdue today, in 3 months, they're likely to collect $70 of it. After 6 months, they're likely to collect $50. After 1 year, less than $20 they can collect. And after 2 years, they can barely collect $1 if at all. The longer you wait, the less you collect. And the more accounts go on credit hold and get sent to a third-party collections agency. Really, a good collections process can mean the difference between getting loans to cover payroll or having a bank account filled with cash. To do a deep dive into collections, I am bringing a very special guest to wrap up this series, and that is my good friend Cristopher Sabal. Cris is our VP of Shared Services and has built global shared service centers for some of the fastest growing enterprises out there. He brings over 17 years experience in the BPO industry, in designing, running, and scaling shared services operations. And I'm excited to bring him on the show. Cris, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, Yasin. I'm excited to be part of this show. I'm a fan, and finally I'm here with you.
There will be an invoice after this show, so
I hope you can pay my.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you on. Collection is a big part of the service experience and can make or break a business. But before we get too deep into the topic, can you maybe give us a 30-second, 60-second overview of your experience in the industry?
Thank you, Yasin. Just like what you mentioned earlier, I have 17 years of really fruitful experience in the BPO industry, managing and leading, scaling shared service centers and BPO companies. Right now, I'm with Origo, with you.
Grateful for that.
Yeah, with Origo, and in my role as the VP of Shared Services, I'm primarily supporting our internal and external stakeholders when it comes to some capabilities that we have. Right now, specifically, we have business excellence. So we support our internal and external clients when they want to do continuous improvement projects. So we have project managers in place right now who can support our clients when they want to improve certain processes or see some better outcomes in their KPIs. I also have a team under me that's responsible for business intelligence, like creating dashboards, reporting, Power BI. I have another team that basically help our clients doing business process mapping, mapping processes, bringing ideal, actual and broken processes into an ideal state, right? And on top of that, I'm also bringing in, supporting our clients in terms of learning and development.
Yeah.
Helping them with training courses,
upskilling work
curriculum designs, etc. And other stuff like IT support as well.
And that's why I'm really Cris, excited to bring you on this episode, because you bring a wealth of knowledge and information, and the scope of your work with our clients and internally really covers a lot of ground that is important today.
Correct.
To make sure that, hey, when you take in a service call and you dispatch it and you get the parts and you bill it, like, you actually can collect on the money. So can you help us define, when does the collection process starts and when does it end? What's the scope of collection of a collection team?
So depends on how the organization is set up. But basically, collections is part and parcel, big part of the OTC,
The order to cash.
order
yeah.
to cash process, or credit to cash for some companies. They call it credit to cash. But some companies would start their collection efforts from actual sending of invoice
Invoice issued.
down to collecting on bad debts, and even
Right.
before sending it to third-party collection
For
Yeah,
liquidation.
liquidation or
Right.
write-off. Yep.
Exactly. So sometimes you're saying even if the AR is not overdue,
Yes.
you still sometimes put
Correct.
AR agents
Yes.
or collectors.
Yeah.
And why do you bring collectors into the process before the invoice is overdue? What's the benefit of that?
Yeah.
When do you do
Because
that?
again, when you talk about collection, the primary goal is to get the money in the bank faster.
Right.
And sometimes there are some strategy around preemptive or preventative collection activities.
Right.
So being proactive in doing your collection activities, sometimes it lessens the DSO, right?
Right. So if you have a high DSO, it's not necessarily you have a lot of bad
Yeah.
debt, but you have DSO, especially if you're working with corporate accounts.
Yes.
Sometimes it's helpful to
Yeah.
put your collectors on the front end.
And that's adding value to the relationship that you build with your AP partners, right? So reminding them, because they're also they have a lot of things in their mind and with their work. So giving that extra push, because collection really is creating that urgency for the customers to settle the credit,
Right.
right? And you can do it before or during when the invoice is overdue or due,
Right.
right?
And I think, and to your point, it's about it's just about creating urgency, but I think it's also about resolving obstacles and
Correct.
friction in
Yes.
the billing process.
Correct.
And collections really, in our experience, play a key role in informing corrective actions or improvements across the entire order to cash.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the issues
Yeah,
happen in collection,
Correct.
but the symptom actually occurred somewhere
Yes.
upstream.
like it becomes a cesspool, right? Like
Yes.
all the issues that happen in CS or dispatch or billing, it gets
Pile up.
accumulated in the collection process. Yeah.
Right.
So as much as possible, we want to arrest that as early as possible. So that's why, again, there's value in doing preemptive or preventative collection activities.
Right. Ahead before the invoice is even over. So I love that. And Chris, so when you're looking at collections, and I know there are a lot of KPIs, but like, how do you measure the success of a program when you're I'm bringing you in to help me with collections?
Yeah.
Like, what are the top 3 to 5 KPIs
Correct.
you want to first look at?
So normally what we do, at least for Origo, right, we go into a scoping discussion with our clients and really understand what's critical to quality for them for collections. Some clients would say, would bring up different KPIs.
Right.
Because there's a lot of KPIs that we can use to measure success in collections.
And it
Then-
depends B2B or
Yeah,
B2C.
B2B, the difference with B2B and B2C. Then for B2C, I know that, you have to have compliance rate as a
Right.
KPI.
It's a huge.
Yeah, because, like for example, in the US, right party contact is important. You can't disclose a loan to a third party, right?
Yeah.
Or you need to comply to the FDCA or the Fair Debt Collections Act of the US. So there are some guidelines there. Like if the customer would say, "Oh, don't contact me anymore. Put me under your no contact list," you have to comply to that. Otherwise, you
Litigation.
take the risk of being
Litigation.
penalized or
Makes sense.
yeah.
So let's first take a look at B2B.
Okay,
What are some of the KPIs you looked at?
So you look at for success measures, there are two big components of KPIs, right? One is your collector's productivity. You need to make sure that your collectors are actually doing collections work.
And how do you measure that?
Yeah, so you have contacts per hour.
What defines contacts?
So contacts per hour is the number of successful contacts that you made in an hour.
And that could be a phone call.
Phone call, email, yeah. So
Direct mail.
different platforms, depending on, or channels, depending on what the client has in place.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And also you have, under productivity, you have house touch, right? So you have a portfolio, right? You're given a collector is normally given a portfolio, and for example, 100 accounts, right? Then you set a target. You need to touch these accounts, 100 accounts, 3 times in a month.
Right.
Then you go and look at your data system to know whether the collector is really touching these accounts 100%.
So productivity, you look at contact per hour and accounts touched.
Yes.
So when it comes to the actual collection metrics, what are you looking at?
So collections metrics, one would be your collection rate, right? So out of the portfolio that you're given, the must do value that you're given, how much and how fast did you collect on that portfolio?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah.
Like how would you look?
For example, your collection past due collection portfolio is 100,000.
Okay.
And you're given 1 month to collect on that portfolio.
Right.
And you collected 40,000.
Right.
Then your collection rate is 40%.
Right.
So the higher the collection rate shows the higher effectiveness there is.
Got it. And you're looking at it like a weekly basis?
Yeah. So normally, that's why reporting is important, because you need to track, daily quota attainment, right?
Okay.
And then so the collector would know, I need to catch up, and hopefully by end of the month he meets the quota.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then your leading indicators, contacts per hour, accounts touch, are leading indicators.
Yeah.
Whether or not, if there's a dip in collection rate, that's the first thing you look at. Are they actually making the calls? Are they touching the accounts?
And then you also look at past due aging.
What do you mean by that?
So for example, whether you're arresting the problem of accounts going into more than 30 plus days, less than 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So you need to make sure that you're tracking that. So you because just like in your opening, right? The longer it takes for you to collect, the harder it becomes for you to collect the money. Right? So you need to arrest the aging at least on the first 90 days at most.
So it doesn't flow.
Yeah. Correct.
Buckets, right?
Where normally that's an indicator that the customer is not willing to settle the debt right away.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're looking at collection rate overall, but you're also looking at collection rate per agent.
Yes.
And then you're looking at aging buckets.
Yes.
Where is your portfolio sitting?
Yes.
Right. And why is that important to look at where your portfolio sits in different buckets, other than stuffing aging? Are there different approach to an account that's, like, say, 1 year old versus an account that's just 30 days overdue? Like, well, how are you using that data?
It's also important to bring in intelligence, right? Business intelligence around this collection work, because you need to understand, at least for B2B, how the company's AP schedule their payment. So you don't have to put more focus in that and effort. Like when you know that this company A will always pay their invoice on the 45th day.
Right.
So that's given. So probably that's where your preemptive collection activities would come in. You send an email, just a reminder, or it's almost your due date, etc.
Issues.
And then you look at accounts that are, high variability in their payment schedule. That's where you put more effort in doing your outreach to these AP contacts.
Got it. So you segment the account.
Yeah.
And depends on their payment history. And if they have pending invoices, they don't have pending invoices, you adapt. And Is there a different approach to an account that's 1 year delinquent versus 1 month?
Yeah, definitely. Like the collection effort would be higher for accounts that's probably 6 months old.
Yeah, because they're at risk of being written off.
So that's one. Then you'll find out, once you go deep, then these companies already going into insolvency or bankruptcy. Yeah, right. Then it's too late for you to get your money, right? So, but when you arrest the aging of that invoice earlier, it could have been paid, right?
Right.
But then because you waited 6 months, 9 months, a year, there's that higher probability of it be sent to a third-party collections agencies, and then you lost the value of your dollar.
Makes sense. And I guess, is it correct to assume then the other metric you look at is bad debt, percentage of bad debt?
Correct.
Yeah.
So out of the total portfolio that you have for past due, so you can assign an aging bucket for your bad debts, right? Could be 180 days and up, could be 151 days and up. And then you go deep and look at each account. Are they still conducting business with us, with you? Are they still taking orders?
Right.
Or they already stopped and we don't have existing relationship, then you can categorize that as a bad.
And I guess that's why you look at buckets, because if someone is like 6 months, they have an invoice with you that's 6 months, you're just going to put them on hold.
Correct.
At least you may keep servicing them, but they have to pay cash, or they have to have a card, right? You don't extend any further.
Yeah. And it's also important, to, as part of your, although this is pre-collection activities, it's your credit check process, right? You only extend credits to, customers that have the ability to pay you back.
I guess, that's a great segue into, some of the most common problems that we see in collections when a partner comes to us and they need help in collections. What's typically the biggest, and it may be too obvious, but what's the biggest challenge you see for folks who come to us, for service companies, field service companies coming to us needing help in collection? Well, what's the biggest problem they have?
I think the biggest problem why they would somehow need help from us is the percentage of their past due invoice are going up.
So late payments,
right?
Okay.
And mostly this is caused by, unclear payment terms, right? Like our client did not set proper expectations.
Or the contract, or the invoice, the amount, the labor hours, or whatever is different than what's on the contract. Or, okay.
And that will somehow lead to another reason, right? Higher disputes rate. Like out of the number of invoices that you send out, higher percentages come back because of the clients disputing the charges in the invoice.
Right, because it's either the payment terms are not clear, or didn't add all the parts, or there's an error.
Yeah, correct.
On the invoice, say you're charging me for 5 hours of labor when you only the technician was here for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's why it's important. As a company, you also need to look at the upstream processes. Nail those down so you don't deal with the problem in the collection.
Makes sense.
Area.
And what are some of the other root causes that you see that contribute to delayed payments?
Again, just like what I mentioned, disputed invoices, right? That's part of it. And then the third one is higher percentage of bad debt.
In what way?
So normally, you want your bad debt, or your 181, depending on how you define your bad debt, to be at least 3% of your
less than. So that's the other big problem that people come to us, right? So you have late payments and you have bad debt. As just sticking a little bit to the late payments, right? How much having the right AP contact contributes to the success or failure of your collection efforts?
Yeah, it's important, essential, right? For you to be able to collect, you need to talk to the right person who's responsible for paying the credits,
especially if you're B2B. And you're dealing with enterprises, thousands of employees. How you have to know who you need to contact to collect your money. Because a lot of times the guy or the gal that's ordering the service
Yeah.
are very different from the ones who are paying.
Correct. And that's why it brings into focus the importance of master data management for these companies. Make sure that they have the right data in place for their collectors.
ERP is always updated.
Yeah, ERP or CRM. They have a CRM where all these contact details are constantly
Change jobs every month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Otherwise,
surprised.
you'll put unnecessary pressure on your collectors and add additional work that are not, value generating.
And
Well-
do you have a tip for us on like how can we make sure that we have you done any improvement projects recently
Yeah, so-
where you've resolved hey, we don't have the right AP contact. How can we get the right AP contact?
There's
in
one
the system?
process that will fix that, which is your skip tracing, right? So you have a dedicated resource or resources
Right.
to do skip tracing and make sure that they're updating the CRM or the ERP with the right contact details and right party
Right.
contact. Yeah.
And there's also, I think, another process you can put in place to make sure you have the right AP contact is at the point of sticking in, in customer service. At the point of taking in
Or
the service
CS or
order.
dispatch.
Or dispatch.
Yeah.
Well, dispatch, I think it's a little bit, sometimes you combine these
Yeah,
two.
correct.
But whenever you have an incoming service call, as part of the script, make
Before
sure that
you close the work order, they need to provide the
invoice for. And a lot of times also the cause for late payments is NTE.
Yes.
It's not updated, not to exceed, right? So they call you, I have, an air conditioner I need to fix, and it's going to cost us, $1,500, $2,000, but the NTE is $500.
Yeah,
So that invoice will not get approved.
correct.
So that affects delay. So, and also, how does capacity, Chris, having right staffing plays into being able to collect on time?
Yeah. So again, capacity plays an important role in your collection effectiveness because you need to have enough staff to do the collection work. Without them, then they won't be able to touch all the accounts that you have in your portfolio, right? So, and again, people, our customers or our AP contacts need prodding for them to pay.
Right.
And without you contacting them and not enough workforce to handle the volume of accounts, there's a big probability that these invoices will age
Correct.
if you don't touch them.
And what do you use to kind of give you to determine the right capacity for your collections team? Like, is there like a tool or like a
At the basic level, you have to have a capacity plan where you plug in all your productivity metrics. For example, based on your historical data, you know that per contact, it would take a collector 6 minutes to collect. Right? So that's your average handle time per contact. And then, you need to also know your volume forecast. So you know that sales is closing this much, right? So you know that sales will be bringing in invoice, like 1,000 invoice. So that's part of your volume that's coming in.
Yeah.
And then you should also know what's your current or old AR. And combine them, and then you have your volume forecast for the month. And then you use your productivity metrics performance to get to the ideal staffing requirements.
And hey, I have 5 collectors, each collector quota.
Yeah.
Let's say, if you and there are like probably levels,
Yes.
right, to agents and how much they can collect. Like a beginner collector can say in a B2B,
Yeah.
they can collect 200,000.
Yep.
And then, a more advanced collector can, do 300.
Correct,
Then
correct.
there's different between corporate accounts and then
That's your resource planning. So you have your capacity plan to make sure that you have the right staff, and then your resource planning is how do you allocate your resources effectively. Like if you have a tenured collector, you want that tenured collector, an SME, to handle
biggest
accounts,
the best account,
right?
yeah.
The best accounts, and then you then go down the list and assign.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get lost in our AR and we don't understand how to resource and allocate agents or staff to different buckets. And what happens is, you lose focus on your new AR. You get so focused on collecting on your old AR that you lose focus on your new AR, and then it starts aging.
Yeah,
and then you're
playing a catch up. Yeah,
Like it's
game. So you need to break it down, right?
Yeah.
So your new AR, so you define them, probably all invoice that has a 0 or 1 to 90 days. And the goal is to collect on this portfolio by 90 days, 90th day. So you don't move them to the next bucket.
Yep.
And then you assign quota per age bucket.
Yep.
And the goal is to collect, when you do your cohorts analysis, get all these new AR collected on the 90th day.
Makes sense.
The most.
Makes sense. So that takes care of the late payments problem. So I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into how we look at resolving late payments and how we approach it. But if you have any questions, please post them in chat below and tag me or tag Chris, and we'd be happy to chime in with our recommendation if you have any specific questions about your situation. So let's move on to the next big problem: disputed invoices. Why do disputed invoices happen?
Again, these problems are happening upstream, right? If your OTC setup is you have a billing team segmented from collections, they're sending the invoice, and segmented from your CS. So as these work orders are being
Travel through the work
through the cycle or through that work stream, so errors are popping up because of people touching it.
Right.
It's manually done.
Either it's a pricing error, doesn't match the contract.
Yes.
You ordered a part, but then you didn't use it.
Yes.
But you kept it on the invoice.
Correct.
Or
Or the hours are quoted are different from what was actually delivered. Yeah.
and sometimes the customer is just not happy
Yes.
with the service, right?
Yes.
And they had a bad experience.
It's a policy related question, right? For example, before they didn't charge this specific service and now they're charging it, and it's their first time to see it in their invoice. So normally the tendency is for the customer to dispute that, and that delays your collection.
Right. And what are some of the ways to reduce disputes?
The preemptive collection work that you need to do, because then you can arrest if there are confusion or customer education that's needed, or even see the dispute right away.
So you need to have a feedback mechanism.
Yeah, correct.
Fast enough to catch disputes early on in the process before they become too overdue.
Yeah.
Right.
That's client facing, and then internal org development is you capture all these issues at the collection.
How?
So the error rate.
So you do quality control.
Yeah, quality control, and then feed it back upstream to your billing, to your
RCAs.
Yes, and sell it back to them, because you can't fix it at the collection
Correct.
phase.
Because sometimes it's the biller not talking to the technician
Correct.
and not understanding what parts was used and was not used, and then just sending the bill. So billing accuracy play a big role. So resolve your billing accuracy, and you'll see a downstream impact on your collection rate going up, rather. Your
And that, I think
collection
that's a contribution that your collection team can bring to the team, to the organization, right? Capturing all these errors and
feeding it back into
the so they can
organization.
fix it.
And one other thing I saw that really helped a lot, especially if you do you work with you're in B2B, is detailed service agreements that spills out everything. Spills out the price on parts, the labor hours, availability, SLAs, all of that. If you have a detailed contract, and like you said, that contract gets uploaded into the ERP, and you have proper master data team and process set up that the information is ready available to the biller, right? It reduces a ton of disputes. So that's great. So then that takes me to the last bucket, which is bad debt. What causes bad debt?
So there are two things, right? One is a root cause that is within our control, right?
Which is
you lack the capacity to handle
right
invoice, right? So the invoice keeps aging and aging, and we're not touching it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one. And second is, which is outside our control, is the solvency and bankruptcy of our clients, and bad credit history that they have.
So I want to push back on that. That's saying it's not in our control. Yeah. Because if you have effective credit policy and credit check, and you're constantly updating your credit policy on accounts, you can get ahead of these things sometimes. Would you say?
Yeah, but that's why it's not 100%.
Yeah.
It's you have some room for these uncontrolled circumstances. That's why you want it at 3% or less, right?
Yeah.
So these things can't be.
You reduce its probability,
right?
You reduce the risk.
Yeah. If you're selling or offering services and goods through credit, there's always a risk of
course, whenever you're
paid,
extending credit,
right?
you're taking on risk. Yeah. So how do you make that balance, right? How do you set up a policy where, hey, if and sometimes credit policies are set on different algorithms, right? So one algorithm says, hey, based on 10 years, hey, has this first year you give them $500 credit. Next year you extend if they're paying on time. Just like a bank, right? Just like a bank extends a loan and expands your credit.
That's why credit check and credit assignments
is a huge
rating assignment is important. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, there you have it. Now you can understand why collections play a key role in your order to cash, because fail to collect on your receivable, right? And it will put an executive in a very, very tough spot, because they will have to then, get loans, cut employees to make, or pressure the sales team to make up for the losses with increased sales. So it can have a lot of negative ramifications on the business if your collection process is not tight. So I hope you enjoyed our final episode, and I'm keen to get your feedback. How do you deal with collections? What are some of the processes that you have in place to mitigate a lot of these risks? And again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in for our 5-star service experience series. It's been a journey. I've got an amazing feedback, a lot of great comments, a lot of great engagement. Thank you so much for being with us on this journey. But the journey is not over.
It's just beginning.
It's just the beginning. So we're by the time you're seeing this, it's probably 2024, and we're already planning for our next series, which I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. It's about field service leaders. So I won't let the cat out of the bag just yet. But we have an exciting new series coming up. And I'm excited to keep bringing you more insights and more breakthroughs through the field service, and I'm excited to keep bringing you more insights and more breakthroughs through the Field Service Excellence Show. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you around. Thank you, Cris.
Thank you.